Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. As you know, if you've been watching my channel, I've been thinking a lot about President Nelson's 100th birthday, just because it seems like it's significant. In this dispensation, we haven't had a president of the church that's reached his 100th birthday, so it's unusual. On top of that, we've looked at the significance of that age in the scriptures. The big thing that I'm looking at is that in the millennium, that's the age at which you're changed in the twinkling of an eye from mortality to being resurrected. Is he going to be the first one to demonstrate that change? I don't know. I hope so. But it just seems like it's significant. And recently we found out that there's going to be this broadcast on his birthday. And I've also thought about the fact that, well, I mean, that by itself is probably going to get a large audience. But beyond that, I think we're going to see a lot of national stories and maybe articles from international media sources that bring this up. I think it's going to make world news. And I'm not talking about like the main headline, but I think that there's going to be stories written about this all across the world. And therefore, internationally, globally, this is going to get a lot of attention. It's like one of those events that's going to go beyond, and it's going to get a lot of attention, I think. It's going to reach a wide audience. And that got me thinking about previous videos that I've done about President Nelson. And, before this point, he's already reached a really large audience compared to his predecessors. And so I want to do a review of that and show you what I mean. So this is just the newest piece, that his 100th birthday is probably going to go far and wide, beyond just the typical church news story. But let's review just how far he's already gone. Okay. So I have a few different things to show you. So the first one, and I'm sorry, we've read this like a million times, but I really think it's worth noting. So this is Sherry Dew, at the time, Executive Vice President and Chief Content Officer of Deseret Management Corporation. She used to be a general officer of the church. And the name of this talk is Prophets Can See Around Corners. It's a BYU Hawaii devotional. And it's a really incredible talk. But for me, especially this part. 2 years ago, I saw President Russell M. Nelson see something I could not see. On September 17th, 2020, I was among those invited to a communications meeting with President Nelson. The pandemic was raging, and we suggested that President Nelson record a message of hope for church members. He told us to, quote-unquote, sprinkle a little fertilizer on that idea and bring it back to him the following week. But then, the very next day, President Nelson asked our group to meet with him again. He told us that our idea wasn't bad, it just wasn't right. During the night, he had received the impression that he should indeed record a message, but a message for the world, not just members. He said his message should be about gratitude and include a prayer for the world. He told us the exact day and time the video should be released and even how long it should be. I had never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details, but as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. Let me just pause right here. I want to point this out since we're here. Whenever I talk about numbers, especially with President Nelson, how he's doing this thing with sevens on his social media, and he's done other interesting things, I don't think it's just random. I don't think that we're just paying, we're making something out of nothing. He has talked about not just Sherry Dew, but he himself in the church's inspiration blog. He has talked about the fact that he receives specific instructions from the Lord. Sister Nelson has talked about that he gets detailed instructions. And a lot of times it has to do with numbers. So it's not an arbitrary thing when it comes to President Nelson. I just want to point that out. Okay. Okay. Continuing. I had never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details, but as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. We assembled a team of videographers and others to fulfill President Nelson's instructions. If this group had relied on their own expertise, they would never have recommended a video as long as the one President Nelson specified, nor would they have suggested releasing it on a Friday. But a prophet had spoken, and we went to work. The result was the hashtag Give Thanks video, released on November 20th, 2020. Now, this is the part that I want to focus on in this video. And the results? Unprecedented. The video's reach dwarfed anything the church had ever released, especially to those not of our faith. Never in the history of the earth had so many people heard a prophet's voice. Prophets see around corners. Okay, so that's pretty stunning. You know, I have this YouTube channel. I pay attention to my analytics, how many views I get in my audience and the reach and impressions and stuff like that. So obviously the church does too in its like communications department or whatever. And she's telling you that the church has never reached this many people. So that's noteworthy. Okay. So we have this. We have President Nelson's upcoming 100th birthday. That's probably going to reach a lot of people. Not just through church news, but the articles that are going to be written around the world about it, you know, taking note of it. But there's more. Let's continue. I never forgot this after I heard it. This is one thing that stood out to me in Elder Rasband's talk in the October 2021 General Conference. The name of the talk is The Things of My Soul. And toward the end of the talk, he says, "For many years, we have heard from the prophet twice a year at General Conference. But with the complex issues of our day, President Nelson is speaking much more often in forums, social media, devotionals, and even press briefings." So I thought that was interesting. According to Elder Rasband, compared to his predecessors, he's speaking a lot more often. He's being seen more. He's being heard more. Let's go back to Sherry Dew. This is a talk called Celestial Training in a Telestial World, May 5th, 2023. And this is the BYU Women's Conference. And I think that this is pretty stunning as well. Now, a few words about prophets. I declare without reservation that the most important words being spoken on earth today are those from prophets, seers, and revelators. Some of their words are to worldwide congregations and others to an audience of one or two. But their words always have power. During a recent meeting with President Nelson, I had a chance to scan an extensive document that lists the dignitaries with whom he has met since becoming president of the church. It was an impressive list of ambassadors, religious leaders, and more. And by the way, after we're done reading this quote, I'm going to show you some of that. There's some people you may not realize that he's met with, or you did know, but when you put it all together, all the people that he's met with, it's kind of jaw-dropping. Okay, so I asked the president how many on the list he had invited to come. And he said, none of them. Each of these individuals requested an audience with the First Presidency at church headquarters. End quote. Surely Isaiah's prophecy that the Lord's church would be established at the top of the mountains and that all nations would flow unto it is coming to pass before our very eyes. As one recent example, the ambassador of the United States from a country in Eastern Europe met with the First Presidency earlier this year. Afterwards, the ambassador told those hosting him at church headquarters that he had met with rulers all over the world, but had never had an experience quite like the one with the First Presidency. He subsequently encouraged a Muslim leader in his region to visit Utah to have his own experience with the first presidency, which that leader did. In an interview with Deseret News, the Muslim leader described his experience with the first presidency as quote unquote unforgettable and said he only wished he had come sooner. You know what? Let me read this next part too, because I like this as well. I have witnessed similar reactions to prophets. When President Nelson arrived at the government palace in Lima in 2018, he met with Peru's president. A tour guide was standing nearby as President Nelson stepped out of the car. "Who is that man?" the guide asked, those of us standing there. Before we could respond, she called out to President Nelson, "Will you please bless Peru?" President Nelson could have been any government official dressed in a suit. How did she know that he actually could bless Peru? Okay, I'll cut it off there. So, let me just show you. I may have to make a new spreadsheet because what I'm about to show you, I want to try and track this. Okay, so first, you may want to watch this video where I go into more detail. It's called President Russell M. Nelson, Lots of World Leaders, Political Kingdom of God, Council of 50 2.0. If you don't know what the Council of 50 was, at the time of Joseph Smith, they were attempting to plan the political kingdom of God, including the drafting of a constitution. There was also a flag for the kingdom of God that was created, which flies at Ensign Peak to this day. At the trailhead, there's the flag of the kingdom of God. I'm actually thinking about buying one, by the way. I think I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to have it in the background whenever I record myself for the channel. So anyway, so I wondered in this video, you had that initial effort to try and plan for the actual political kingdom of God. And now, with President Nelson meeting with all these world leaders, maybe we're getting to that point where bridges are being built. It's being guided by the Spirit, because the church is going to need to have good relations with the leaders of the world, like those that remain after the second coming. So they're like developing these relationships right now, which I think will help the transition of power from the way that things are now into the kingdom of God in the millennium. Okay, so let's just quickly go through this list. And this, of course, is it's not comprehensive. I'm going to have to do some digging and see if I can find more people. But like I said, I want to put together a spreadsheet maybe just for the dignitaries that we know that President Nelson has met with, because it is what I'm about to show you by itself is a stunning list. Okay, so who's this? It says President Russell M. Nelson greets Sikh leader Surinder Kandari on April 29th, 2022. So a leader of the Sikh religion, most likely from India, I would imagine, maybe Pakistan, or I don't know, maybe he's like in the UK or something like that. But whatever the case, okay, so that's interesting. Interacting with the Sikhs. A lot of people confuse them for Muslims. They're not. But anyway, this isn't a video about that. And then this was toward the beginning of his presidency. One of the first things that he did, he had these interactions with the NAACP. And he ended up like, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but he ended up like winning an award or something like that from that organization, which is really good. So there's him. It says Elder Ronald Rasband of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints speaks during a press conference. Okay, never mind. I thought that was going to... President Russell M. Nelson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints embraces the Reverend Amos C. Brown at the 110th Annual National Convention for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in Detroit on Sunday, July 21st, which is 3/7, 2019. Okay, who else? Somaliland delegation meets with the president of the Church of Jesus Christ. Okay. Sudanese government leader visits church headquarters. And, here's Elder Bednar. But if you scroll down, you have President Russell M. Nelson shakes hands with Nasser al-Din Mufarhi, Minister of Endowment and Religious Affairs for the Republic of the Sudan on Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. Next, President Nelson greets former New York Attorney General Robert Abrams in the church administration building. And Robert Abrams, we've talked about him before. He's Jewish. And when they rededicated the Orson Hyde Memorial Garden on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, he was there. He was part of the Jewish delegation that was there with at the time Elder Holland and Elder Cook. And he was with them when they met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But in this case, he's meeting with President Nelson June 9th, 2022. Okay, and this is recent news right here. Not this picture. This is from earlier. President Nelson welcomes Haji Allah Shukur Hamad Pashade, Sheikh ul Islam and Grand Mufti of the Caucasus, to the church administration building, March 1st, 2023. So this was from a while ago, but recently, I guess the church has applied for and I think been granted official recognition in Azerbaijan. So that's where he's from. I was thinking about doing a video about that. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but I'm gonna have to look into that more. But anyway, here's President Nelson meeting with him. Pretty amazing, pretty stunning. Then we have this. First Presidency welcomes Vietnamese delegation visiting Salt Lake City. President Nelson praises New Zealand's Prime Minister during visit to Wellington. And I don't know if it was before or after this, but there was a new temple announced for New Zealand. So that may have something to do with this. I don't know. First Presidency welcomes leader of Muslim World League. So that's kind of significant. In Islam, there is no centralized. It's not like our church where we have one leader. It's like Judaism, but you do have leaders in both Judaism and Islam. And I don't know the extent of the Muslim World League or exactly what that means. I don't know if that's mostly a political thing or if it's a religious thing, but whatever the case, it's obviously a big deal. And so you have him meeting with His Excellency, Dr. Muhammad Abdul Karim Alis Isa. Yeah, met with him. And then there was this. We've talked a lot about this and the different things surrounding this event. President Nelson meets with Pope Francis at the Vatican and then gives him a gift of a miniature Christus statue. It was the dedication of the Rome, Italy temple that President Nelson said was a hinge point in the history of the church. And him meeting with the Pope was no small thing either. But I've done videos about this, but you'll have to go search for those. Do a search for Pope Francis or just Pope on my channel. And then finally, church leaders welcome President Trump to Welfare Square. This was back in 2017. So this was just before President Nelson became president of the church, because President Monson died the next month in January 2018. But, here you have this. So President Nelson has really spoken to a lot of people, a lot of high up significant people. And I would like to track down whatever else I can. So if you know of anybody else that he's met with, feel free to send me an email, and I think I will be putting together this spreadsheet. And so, bringing it back full circle, I feel like something is going on. you know, the church and, through President Nelson is reaching a lot of people, not just like in numbers, like certainly by numbers, but also people in the upper echelons of society and power and government. It's a really stunning thing to witness. This by itself is a sign of like how far the church has come. And like I said, maybe this has to do with the transition of power whenever Christ's government is installed. I think it has to do with that. So anyway, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.